Morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I hope all is well. I hope you've enjoyed your week. And now it is Saturday, which means it's time for a live draw with me on my channel. So, of course, you're probably wondering, because I titled it Live Draw of What? Because I didn't get any ideas for this week. I didn't get any suggestions in the comments to what to draw. So I decided to go a little rogue and decide to do my own thing. So I'm going to actually talk about that in just a second. So anyway, guys, as always, first of all, thank you for those of you who are joining live with me. I greatly appreciate it. Comment while you're here. And then as well, for those who watch this later, leave your comments below as well. I'd love to hear what you're thinking. Anyway, how's it going, Boris? You doing alright, man? I'm glad to see you. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this set up and go ahead and get the picture on to start working on it so you guys can see what I'm live drawing today. By the way, guys, if you have any ideas for me of the future live drawings you'd like to see done on Saturdays, leave comments down below on what you want to see drawn. It would be comic book characters, wrestling characters, whatever it may be. Awesome. Anyway, so let's do this. I'm going to flip this camera around a little bit and let you see what we got going on. Alright, we're set up here. You can't quite see what's going on, so I'm going to talk about it a little bit. I went ahead and laid out my general skeleton so that way I'd have something to go by on the page. Make this go a little bit quicker anyway. So, what we've got today is a story about the 90s. Now, when I was growing up in the 90s, that was early 90s, would have been high school for me. I graduated in 92, so, feeling old, I definitely do. But anyway, so there was a cartoon that came out during the early 90s in the U.S. called Gargoyles. Now, the funny story about this cartoon is that the beginnings of it were a little bit more childish. The initial pitch for this was Disney wanted to do a fantasy-based TV show that had gargoyles in it. And initially, the people at Disney passed on the idea. They thought they had this other project they were wanting to do called the Gummy Bears. And so, for those of you who don't know what the Gummy Bears are, it's this little comedy about these little bears that drank this gummy berry juice so they could bounce around for a little while, hence the name Gummy Bears. And, I don't know if they got a food product tied to that. I think they should have. But anyway, so then there was this point where Greg Wiseman is the name of the guy who started the project. He went back to the drawing board, worked on Gummy Bears, and actually had this kind of crazy idea for this series. Because, like I said, originally he wanted to do a comedy series based on these characters. And so they were going to be kind of these gargoyles out of place, in a different land, in a different era. And they were going to kind of do this thing. But then, as the Gummy Bears really took off for Disney, he decided to pitch it kind of differently. He decided to pitch the Gargoyles as this serious show. And so he went ahead and did that and set it up. As he went ahead and went into it, one of the things he talked about was the different characters. And so he wanted this person that was very kind of Shakespearean in a lot of ways. The idea of a person who was wronged and kind of how he was dealing with that. So what he did was he created the character of Goliath. And so Goliath is this gargoyle. He's the leader of this gargoyle clan. And this clan of gargoyles protects the castle that they sleep at. And so it's kind of, one of the big statements that Goliath makes early on in the series is a gargoyle can no more protect the castle than to breathe. And so that's kind of his motto about protection of the castle. So basically the gargoyles, and it's always been in their physiology, they turn into stone during the day when the daylight hits. And then when the daylight falls or the sun sets, then they become the gargoyles. They live again. They have this kind of organic stone that their skin turns into during the day, and then at night, of course, they become the gargoyles. They wake up, and they're able to defend their home in a very powerful way. And so, basically, through some trickery and some deceit, and this show is very Shakespearean, by the way. If you like anything Shakespearean, trust me when I tell you, this show fits well into that category. Not only because it has characters from Shakespeare in the actual cartoon, but Um, but also just classic literature in general. I really had gotten at a point out of my life where I wasn't reading as much. High school is kind of that point where everything kicks in, all your hormones kick in, all that other crazy stuff happens. And so I wasn't reading as much because my attention was focused elsewhere. So what happened was I'd end up, started watching this show. And as I started watching the show, for example, Macbeth, the character, Macbeth is actually in the show as a character. And he has a famous line. There's a character in the show named Desdemona. And so, or Demona, I said Desdemona. Demona. And he makes a comment, Goliath says something about Demona. You know her? He's like, know her? I named her. So it's very important in gargoyle lore because if somebody has the power to name you, then that has a bit of ownership to it. Because the gargoyles for the longest time didn't even have names. I think the only one that was named at the beginning of the series was Goliath himself. Because he would always say, the humans named me Goliath. So he didn't even take the name for himself initially. So that's kind of the story of the baseline of gargoyles. One of the cooler things about gargoyles as well, for a lot of people that may not know, if you're a fan of Star Trek The Next Generation, the gargoyles were very much a lot of that cast actually were all members from that show. I think the only person they said they tried to get and couldn't was Patrick Stewart. Now it's because they couldn't afford to pay him what he at that point would have been earning for a TV show voice. So, but other than that, like Jonathan Frakes, who played Commander Riker in the show, he was the main bad guy. He was David Xanatos. And one of the other things about the show I thought was really interesting is that the idea that everything is not always what it seems. And so you had moments in the show, for example, where certain bad guys would come into play, and things would happen, and then eventually over time you'd realize that maybe they weren't as bad as we thought they were. So, and then other people would come in that you thought were maybe really, really good, and then you realize they weren't as good as you thought they were. Another fun sciencey fact in the Gargoyles universe that they did was the male gargoyle's eyes always glowed white. The female's gargoyle's eyes always glowed red. The reason for that was, they talked about the fact for such a long time, especially in comic books and in television and things like that. Red always depicts that sense of danger, whenever you see, be careful, like a red light, for example, at a traffic stop. Different things like that. People say, oh, well, it's red. Their eyes are red. That must mean they're evil. And so there's a point later on in season 2 where you find out that Goliath has a daughter. And because she's female, of course, her eyes glow red. And so everybody thinks for a while, oh, is she a bad guy? Is she secretly going to turn against her father? And come to find out, nope, she never did. She was very loyal to her dad. And as a matter of fact, Demona tried to turn her against her father, and that was not a good idea. That was definitely a cat fight waiting to happen. A lot of people who watch the show kind of knew at some point, yeah, we're going to see this fight happen. And so that occurred. Another fun fact about this was there was an interesting romance angle in the show. One of the main characters in the show was a cop named Elisa Maza. And she was, I believe she was Hispanic and Native American. Oh no, I'm sorry, black and Native American. So you had black, I believe her dad was black and her mother was Native American. And so they really played with a lot of how her race, but also there were certain parts about it that they would talk about her culture and things like that. So I thought that was really cool because they didn't shy away from the fact that some people probably felt like she was different because she was black and or Native American. So I like how they took that role and really worked with it as well. I thought that was really cool and really different. So that was one of those things that I thought was just really cool, was how they managed to do that. But anyway, so at the beginning of the series, she very much has no idea what she's getting herself into with these gargoyles. But hey, she's a cop, and so she's gonna definitely do what she has to do. And David Xanatos, continues to try to get one over on the gargoyles a lot of times because they're naive. They don't know a whole lot about the world. They don't know how the world works because they were frozen whenever there was a point in their original era in Scotland. I believe it was like 15 AD or something like that. And they were in Scotland, and all of a sudden, the princess was kidnapped of the castle that they were protecting. Well, they came after Goliath initially came because as far as he knew, all of his friends and family had been destroyed. You know, of course, that's turning into stone during day, and that doesn't set for the greatest advantage. If a person knows that you turn stone during the day. So they smashed a lot of his kindred, a lot of his family, and including what he thought at the time, including the Mona. And so he thought she got smashed with the rest of them. So he basically went after the people that did it. Well, in the process, he found the princess. Well, there was another sorcerer named Demagus. And so Demagus thought that, oh, well, the princess is dead because of these gargoyles, so I'll curse the gargoyles. I can't kill them, but I can do something else. So he ended up casting a spell on them to make them remain stone until their castle rose above the clouds. And so when Goliath realized what happened, he basically said, "Cast your spell one more time." And I can't do the voice nearly as good as Keith David does. You just gotta hear it. If you ever want to try to hear it, go just check out Gargoyles and listen to Keith David's voice when he delivers that line. It's just very impassioned, very powerful, but very bold in the way they do it. Anyway, so he delivers that line, and then they basically put him under the same spell, with the understanding that if nobody ever raised the castle above the clouds, he was going to stay in stone forever. So that's just, pretty bold thing to ask. But he did it, and then David Thanatos, who, like I said earlier, is played by Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek fame, came in, and he bought the castle, and then he went ahead and, put it above the clouds on his biggest building in the city of New York. And so I like the fact also that it was based in New York. I thought that was really interesting as well, because you have a place that people recognize as a scenic place. And so they put him in New York so that way they'd have opportunity to use those landmarks, because later when the rest of the gargoyles are named, they're all named after landmarks in New York. One was named Brooklyn, one was named Broadway, one was named Bronx, and I'm having Hudson, there we go. And then Hudson was the oldest one. Hudson was played by Ed Asner. I don't know how many people listening and watching this video would know who Ed Asner is, but he's a phenomenal actor. Been around for a long time. His voice is very recognizable, a lot of animation. And he was on Mary Tyler Moore, I think, before that. So I think that's probably his most famous role in the Mary Tyler Moore show. But again, not for sure how many people would know what that is. Anyway, so that is kind of the baseline story of Gargoyles. I would always say, if you have an opportunity to watch the show, go watch the show. It's worth it. Trust me. It's a great show with a lot of great meaning behind it. Like I said, it has a lot of Shakespearean elements. If you like reading, definitely something to check out. It's a very powerful series with a lot of good stuff going on in it. You have character development that's really good. They really work hard to give you this idea that everybody has an opportunity to be the hero if they want to be the hero, and not to give up on people, because there's points in the show where they'll have different people coming in and things will happen, and Goliath's just like, look, you can set yourself free from this. You don't have to remain a prisoner to these ways or this way of thinking. And it's totally up to you if you want to do that. So I think that's really cool, because I think that's something missing in a lot of our kids shows today, is this idea that there is opportunity for redemption if you want it. And so no matter who you are, no matter what you've gone through in life, there is hope for you. That's something that Gargoyles really tried to establish in the show, during the course of the time of the show. So Goliath is who I'm drawing today. And there you guys are. That's the basic drawing of it. I don't know. Do I want to? Let's see. What time is it? Okay. No, I think we'll stay with it for a little bit longer. Go ahead and go a little bit darker. Try to see if we can get those wings in at least before we go. how's everybody doing out there? Everybody doing all right? How's that basic though? Uh, good question. I'm just saying, when I say basic stuff, I mean, I'm just asking the question, should I go ahead and finish up the wings? I guess when you do something for a long time, there's a point where it becomes basic to you. I don't mean it basic as a general thing. I just mean it's basic thought to me. I just try to, you know, work on it that way. But yeah, the cool thing about it is what you actually see me coloring right now. It's not his. He doesn't have a cape per se. Since he's a gargoyle, he has the wings, and his wings. It's cool. I think the other ones may be able to do. I know I've seen the other ones do it at different times, but Goliath, the first time you really see this happen is in the first episode. He comes in and you think, oh my gosh, he's so big and bad. He's such a big monster. He's going to come in and be this crazy, harmful person. And he flaps his wings over his shoulders like a cape. And then he just kind of folds them over and curtsies and kind of bows to the queen. And so I thought that was really awesome because, again, it's that idea that when they left that scene, you think, oh my gosh, he's gonna destroy her. You know, she's been talking bad about him, and now he's gonna do something about it. He's gonna say something about it, and he doesn't. He just kind of shows her that he's definitely not the beast that she thinks he is. But even then, she still at the time definitely doesn't trust the gargoyle. As a matter of fact, you know, with his name being Goliath, you know, of course, one of the people in the council say, well, you're just as powerful as the Philistine giant, Goliath, the biblical Philistine giant. And then she says, you have to remember, the Goliath of the scriptures was a bully as well. And so she didn't quite give Goliath his due until he came to save her life. And then when he came to save her life, again, she realized that everything is not always what it seems. She thought he was a monster. He showed her otherwise. But even then, in that process, through the misunderstanding that her wizard had, you know, her wizard appeared as though he was kind of evil, but he really wasn't. He was just under the impression that his princess had died, and so he wanted to do something to repay that debt, I guess. So, but it's cool because even when you see them later on, you begin to understand it in their time, because we do go back to that time later on in the show. And there are points where, for example, Demegas and some of the others are guarding the rookery, and they find out that there are other gargoyles who did survive, and they take care of those gargoyle eggs. And I mean, so they definitely pay that. They definitely pay that back well over. So they let it be known that, you know, we're gonna take care of these eggs. We're gonna make sure that these eggs, you know, are born and come to fruition. So I always thought that was really interesting how they do that. Go ahead and finish this out. Since we're kind of coming under this, and I have the wings there, so what kind of shadow created the shadow of those wings draping over. But I hope you guys get to check out the show. If you've never checked out the show, it's incredible. Like I said, it's one of the few times that a Disney cartoon I actually watched a Disney show for years. I think I watched it all through high school. And then I just recently was able to pick up the first season of it on DVD. And so I think they only released the first 2 volumes on DVD. And then I want to say there's something called the Goliath Chronicles. I'm not for sure if that was ever put in DVD or not. I don't know. So that's something I'll have to look for and see if I can find it. Because if those are out there, I'd like to find them at some point and watch them, because they go back in time. It's a lot of time travel that gets involved, and they're trying to find the other gargoyles and all this other stuff. It gets pretty crazy. So, but that's what happens there. And we live again. So there we go. Just finishing that up. Give give us some depth and dimension to the rest of the body of Goliath. I'm going to finish that up there real quick. And there we are. So there's Goliath from Gargoyles. So that's what I drew this week. Like I said, guys, go ahead and comment. And let me know who you want to see drawn on next week. And anyway, as always, thank you for getting on here with me, following me, checking things out that I do. And I hope to hear from you. That's the important part. Always comment, talk with me. Be more than happy to talk with you. Jeff Hardy. Okay, we can definitely put that up. Yeah, Jeff Hardy is definitely a suggestion. I hadn't done a wrestling one in a few weeks. That'll be a good one. All right, so Jeff Hardy next week, guys. That's what I just got requested, so that's what we're doing. Anyway, guys, as always, thank you so much for following me and everything. I greatly appreciate it. Love you guys a lot. As always, I have a story to tell, and I hope my story inspires you to tell yours. And then more importantly, be blessed to be a blessing to somebody, guys. Until next time, as always, do your thing and don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because you're the only one that can do it.